everyone! Oh my god, I'm making a video. It's sort of gonna be a random one. Um, it's just, I don't know if this is gonna be kind of a confession video, sort of. Um, I just kind of, I don't know, I haven't made a video in a while, but it's something that I've been kind of wanting to talk about, but I haven't really I haven't known how to kind of talk about it. But yes, I'm in the car, and I'm sorry that I kind of look like crap. I just came out of class. I guess I'll start the video out with saying happy 2017. I hope this year is going better for you guys than 2016 did. I don't know if you had a crappy 2016, but a lot of us did. So I hope this year is going better for you. I hope you're all happy and successful and doing well, and if not, that's okay. You know, I support you. I'm here for you. I believe in you. I know you can do it, and all of that. But I mean, I hope you're happy wherever you are. So, that being said, I want to say that for starters, I've had a really good 2017 so far. So far, I've felt really positive and really happy, and I've had a handle on my anxiety. I've been trying to exercise more. I've been closer with my, spiritual path and all this stuff. And so I'm feeling content so far. This is January 18th or something. So I'm feeling okay so far. But there's something I just kind of wanted to say. I guess I'm going to kind of treat this like a video journal. Because I just kind of need to say it in a format that isn't what I usually use. Like I've talked with my friends and my family about this particular topic, but I haven't really, I want to say it in a way that I don't have to really rein myself in, because because a lot of my friends know this thing, this personal thing, and I sometimes feel like I'm talking too much about it, but I want to say it in an unrestrained manner. So because you guys aren't looking me right in the face, I think I can say it in a way that makes me feel a little more safe. I mean, I guess I can't say safe because it's the internet, but I kind of just want to talk to you guys a little bit about this issue. So without yammering any longer, basically for 4 years of my life, from age 18 to 22, 23, whatever, I was in an emotionally abusive relationship. I dated this person whose name I'm not going to say, whatever. I dated this person. I met him in senior year of high school, and I had just gotten out of a relationship, but the relationship, the previous one to this one, was kind of not really a relationship. So I don't want to say that this guy was a rebound. That's not fair. We were together for 4 years, and we were engaged in the 3rd year. And I was in a very bad place, I think, emotionally and mentally. When I started dating him, my self-esteem was really bad. I didn't have, like most teenagers, or not most, but a lot of teenagers, I didn't have a very good relationship with my parents. It wasn't a bad relationship. They were just the biggest source of stress in my life. So, understandably, I was very anxious, and I didn't realize that I had anxiety. I kind of thought I was just being ridiculous. And my parents were not as supportive as I wanted them to be. But I mean, I love my parents. I love them. But you know, I just had that time. I was in my rebellious teenage phase, whatever. But I had very poor self-esteem. And I had like no confidence in myself. And I was sure that people didn't hang out with me because they actually liked me, but because they just sort of tolerated me. So I was super convinced that I was sort of this worthless person, and I had even tried cutting in my junior year of high school because of an argument in which I was called stupid to my face, and I never thought I'd have anyone ever actually call me that. I mean, I've been called a lot of things, fat or whatever, but being told having someone look at you and say, "You are so stupid," but not in a trying to insult you way, but in a "this is my actual opinion of you" way. It was really hard for me at the time. And I was, so I was in a bad place. And so when I started dating this guy, I felt like I was the luckiest person in the world. Like, oh my God, someone actually tolerates me enough to be with me. And at first he was really sweet, and he, was funny, and I really thought that this guy was really nice, and he was a year older than me, and I thought, I think this guy's going to be the one to help me become who I need to be. And so for the first couple of months, it was nice. And then there were these things that he would do that in a rational, or not in a rational, but in a healthy mind would have immediately been red flags. And to me, they were not. He attacked a friend of mine, not a friend, but an acquaintance from high school. Because the friend from high school said something about a band he likes, and my boyfriend at the time, this guy, didn't hurt the guy, but threatened him in the middle of a public place by grabbing him and putting a toothpick near his eye and saying, "Take it back or I take it out." That should have been a red flag right there. But I defended him, and I lost friends because of it. And that was right there. That was the beginning of the 4 years of my descent into being a victim. And I hate saying it because it sounds like I'm, because you guys don't know his side. And I'm not trying to say that I was the perfect person in the relationship. I had bad things too. But that's besides the point. So after that whole attacking my friend in the mall thing. Yeah, it was the mall, guys. It was in the mall. So after that, there was a series of things that should have told me that he was a bad choice. He attacked my friend. He convinced me that my parents, so I'm adopted by two lovely women, and he convinced me that my parents only adopted me because I was a charity project, and the reason I didn't get along with them is because I wasn't up to their standard, and they were like disappointed that their charity project didn't turn out the way they wanted it to. And he convinced me that was the truth. And then he tried to convert me to Catholicism. And for all of you who've been watching, I'm pagan. I didn't know at the time what I really was, but I've never felt connected to Christianity or Catholicism. But he tried everything in his power to convert me to his religion, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but I wish I had had the strength at the time to tell him that this is not what I want. But I let him try. And I even kind of faked being close to being Catholic to make him happy. And he converted me to liking his style of music and kind of liking his lifestyle as opposed to the one that I was leading at the time. So there are all these things that led up to me that I probably should have been like, oh, this is not a good thing. And then I want to say in the second or third year of our relationship, he convinced me to sell my horse. Now, my horse, Artax, was my absolute... I loved that horse. And I still do. And I mean, that's a hobby that I'm so miserable that I don't have anymore. I'm so sad that I can't go out riding after work or after class. It hurts. And I'm still, to this day, sometimes have mental or emotional breakdowns about it. But he convinced me to sell my horse because he said, and I quote, "It is driving a rift between us because of the money that it takes." So basically, he said that my hobby, that I had that horse from when I was 13 years old. 10 years. And he told me, you know, it's going to break us up for how much that horse is, how expensive that horse is. The money is stressing us both out to the point where we're not going to be together anymore. And I sold my horse because I didn't want him to leave. I didn't want that. So I sold my horse, and in doing so, lost my best friend. My best friend who I'd been friends with since I was 7 years old. And now we don't even talk anymore. And that hurts too. I know people go their own ways, like their separate ways, but that was hard for me. You know, I had no support, and he didn't even support me through me being upset. He kept telling me, you know, obviously the horse meant more to you than I mean to you. Or it was just a horse. You can get another one later. And, you know, those kinds of things. So for those of you who are aware of kind of the symptoms or the signs of emotional abuse, is them changing you, molding you to be what they want you to be. Now, all of these things he's done were molding me. I changed my taste in music. I stopped getting along with my family. We became what friends of mine call a blob, where it was just it wasn't the two of us anymore. It was us. There was no individuality. There was no me anymore. I just became everything he wanted me to be. And I'm sorry, my arm is getting tired. And I realized recently that I'm angry at myself for allowing him to do that to me, for changing me. And he introduced me to a friend of his who is probably crazy. I don't know. But was nice. It was a nice guy, but that guy tried to change me too. He tried to insist that I would be trained by him to be a soldier. And I'm like, at the time I didn't say anything, but now that I'm out of that whole deal, I'm like, but you're not in the military. You've never been in the military. But every time we'd go over to hang out with this guy, he would make us run laps and do push-ups and help chores around the farm because he wanted us to be his troopers. And I was like, for what purpose? But I mean, that's not a big deal. Anyways, so all these things led up to, you know, me eventually realizing that he was a piece of shit. But the big part of the abuse that I dealt with was the guilt tripping, the turning the arguments into my fault. Everything was my fault. And then this guy saying that he knew everything because he'd have more life experience than I had, because I was a sheltered girl, because my parents are he called them rich, but my parents are, I mean, well-to-do, whatever you want to call them. He was mad because my parents have taken me on cruises and taken me to Mexico and Cancun and stuff like that. And his family never got to do that with him or never had the money to. But then he would play it off like he was glad that they didn't because I was a spoiled, sheltered, rich girl and I had no life experience. But he had had life experience because he was abused by his dad and his family was hardcore and he was homeless for a while, and that made him such a better person than me. So he just knew everything, and so everything could be turned against me because I didn't know. You know, I hate to use the Matilda thing, but it's like, I'm smart, you're dumb, I'm big, you're little, I'm right, you're wrong. That was a constant in this relationship. If I got mad because I was like, hey, honey, you don't have a job, I have to go to work, can you do the dishes? And I'd come home and the dishes weren't done. And I'd say, why didn't you do the dishes? And he'd be like, why didn't you? Or, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realize I was your slave or that I was your servant. And then he'd get mad at me for asking him to do the dishes. And then if he asked me to do something and I didn't do it, he'd be mad at me for days. He'd be like, you're so selfish, you're so bitchy, you know, you never learned how to do real chores, and I don't even know why I'm with you anymore. And I'd tell him, if I'm so bad, why are you still with me? And he'd look at me dead serious and go, I don't even know. I don't even know why I'm with you. I guess I'm just, whatever. And then he'd be mad for a couple days and he'd say, you're lucky I love you. But then it's infuriating, right? But then the thing is, I was convinced he was right. I got to a point where he mentally trained me when we were going out to eat or something or going out to hang out with friends, and he'd say, what do you want to do? I got to the point where I'd say, whatever you want. I would never say what I wanted to do because I would be selfish if I did. We actually got into a fight in my first year of college when I was 19 years old, where he got mad at me because I said something about like he wanted to go to Taco Bell, but I wanted to go to Burger King. And he called me selfish, but he got like angry at me and said, you're always so selfish. And I didn't want him to leave me because I thought there's no one else who's going to tolerate me. There's no one else who's going to be with me because this guy, he's so kind for dealing with me that I started saying, whatever you want, whatever you want. Oh, what movie do you want to go to? I don't know, whatever you want. And it just became a pattern that my therapist calls conditioning, that I was conditioned for this response to just, I don't even know how to make decisions for myself anymore. I don't want to make a decision in case I'm, being selfish. And so there was all that, and there was the guilt tripping where he would like make me feel guilty for going out to ride my horse, or guilty for, I went out with a friend to Red Lobster for girls' night out. And we came back and he was mad at me. And I was like, why are you mad at me? And he said, well, you didn't invite me. And I'm like, it's girls' night out. I told you where we went. And he said, yeah, well, Red Lobster is our place. And I'm like, I can never eat at Red Lobster unless you're with me? But I didn't say that because I didn't want him to get mad. I didn't want to make it worse because if I blew up at him, I was scared he would leave and I didn't want him to leave me. And he got mad at me for days about it. And so that was 4 years of all of that, basically in different scenarios, but all that shit. Sorry. Bad language, I apologize. So, in the end, we obviously broke up. He broke up with me because he was tired of my shit. I'm not going to go into the details of the breakup or why it happened. It's personal. But basically, he dumped me because he was tired of my shit. And while he was sitting there yelling at me, a gear clicked. And I was like, I've been putting up with all this bullshit and you're the one dumping me? And I lost my shit. I'm sorry, again, language. And I blew up. And I told him everything that I ever wanted to say to him. I was like, but you this and you that and the guilt tripping and the horse and all of this shit and your aunt is a bitch and blah, blah, blah. And I mean, I blew up. And I told him everything I honestly felt. And in the end, he was crying and he begged me to take him back. But I was done. And it took, that was 3 years ago. And I was like, I feel so much better now that this fucker is gone out of my life. So I just kind of wanted to get that off my chest. I wasn't trying to, it was literally a video to vent. And I appreciate you guys if you made it through this whole video. If you have comments or questions or whatever, you can message me, I'm down. But I just needed to say it to people who weren't aware of the situation already. It makes me feel better. I'm using this as therapy, you guys. Thank you for listening, and if you notice any friends or family who's in this kind of relationship, please help them or support them in any way you can. It hurts and they need you. And thank you. Subscribe, like, comment, whatever you like. I hope you guys have a good day. Maybe I'll do another video soon.